Welcome to this week's Texas Insider Fishing Report. This week's weather forecast looks promising for our avid anglers, don't you think, Brie?
Exactly, with a mix of sunny skies and gentle winds providing excellent conditions for our fishing adventures across the state. It's time to grab your gear and get ready for the Texas Insider Fishing Report, which starts now.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
I'm Brie Gabrielle, this is Captain Rick Murphy, and we are excited to bring you the most up-to-date information to help you reel in the big ones, including redfish, trout, wahoo, triple-tail, bass, and crappie. Now, bass are on the beds and spawning, which means what for our avid anglers, Rick?
What it means, Brie, is they're going to have to adjust their game a little, because remember, in the upper fresh region, in that Dallas area and even north, it's still cold in the morning. So what they're gonna wanna do is they're gonna wanna start deep, and then as the day heats up, then they're gonna move shallow just like the fish, because remember guys, this deep of water is gonna warm up a whole lot faster than 6 or 7 feet. So keep that in mind and adjust your program.
That's a good tip. All right, we're about to dive deeper into the hottest fishing spots, species-specific strategies, and expert insights to help you make the most of this fantastic fishing weather. But before we head to our first region, let's say hi to Dave Farrell, our workbench expert. Dave.
Hey, Bree, how you doing?
Good.
Well, we're going to be talking today at the workbench about black drum. It's a very underrated fish. You know, they pull really hard, and they're really a lot better to eat than most people think.
You're absolutely right, and the sound they make is just heartwarming to me. I love it. I love listening to them. All right, the Star-Tryon Middle Fresh region has one of the hottest bass bites around on Toledo Bend. Sam Rayburn and O.H. Ivy, and our guide Matt Loescher has a tip or two on how to find them. Go for it, Matt.
All right, Bree. Yeah, we got several lakes on the list this week. A lot of good stuff happening here in the Middle Fresh region. Kicking it off on the bass fishing side of things is Toledo Bend. It's continuing to pump out the bass right now. The water temperature here is in the upper 60s, up into the low 70s, and we've got a tale of two patterns going on. There's an offshore bite, kind of like what Rick was talking about, you know, with the upper end there, the upper part of Texas, but we still have a little bit of that going on here in the Middle Fresh as well. Now, you got that offshore bite and then the shallow bite. Here, though, it's more of a lake level deal because the water is down a little bit more. They're not staying in those shallow areas as much. They kind of run up and spawn, then they pull back off. So the offshore bite is happening in about 10 to 20 feet on the ends of the ridges out in front of the spawning areas. Carolina rigs, Texas rigs, and crankbaits are all good for that one. And then the shallow bite is pretty good in the areas where there is some shoreline cover. The water level is still about 2 feet below pool, so there just isn't a lot of trees and bushes to hold the fish or on the shoreline. So you need to get in those areas where there's some vegetation to really capitalize on that bite. Texas rigs, vibrating jigs, and topwater baits have all been productive in those shallower areas with the vegetation. And we got a photo here to kick it off of Miss Mona O'Neill, wife of Brandon O'Neill, who guides with us at Living the Dream Guide Service.
Nice.
Got herself a real nice Toledo Bend bass there she's showing off.
Yep, I'd be showing it off too, bub. What else you got?
Oh, yeah. Moving over to Rayburn. Sam Rayburn has been holding steady, just slightly above pool level with water temperatures in the upper 60s and low 70s there as well. The water level is great for this time of the year there because there's a lot of really good shallow habitat for the fish to get her in and spawn around, but not so much water that they can get away from you and hide and scatter up in those trees. So at this level, the fish are using the inside grass lines as well as the cypress trees and bushes to spawn around. And then there's also that offshore bite as they hold off when they're staging in and out to and from spawning. Look for that bite in about 15 to 25 feet of water outside the hydrilla. Carolina rigs are always a staple at Rayburn, and they're very effective for fishing those inside and outside grass lines and the deeper offshore structure as well. But if you like to fish that shallow stuff, get up there with a frog. That's awesome right now. Topwater poppers, anything like that around the shoreline cover. Weightless stickworms like that Fat Job are great. Soft jerkbaits like the Bass Assassin Vapor Shad, those are all good options right now at Rayburn. Moving over to O.H. Ivy, the lake that everybody's heard so much about over the past few years. It is still putting out some giants, but so far it's fishing a little tougher this season. It's not, the numbers just haven't been as good, but the water level is about 24 feet low and holding, so they're still kind of concentrated. The temperatures have been in the upper 50s and low 60s. The fish are mostly pre-spawn and some are spawning. I spoke with Jared Poole at Hill Country Hammer Guide Service. They're up at OHIV right now. He told me that they're catching fish outside the salt cedars in 10 to 15 feet with spinner baits and vibrating jigs in a chartreuse and white color. They're also using big stick worms for that pattern, like that Double X Fat Job by Bass Assassin. So put those big worms to use to catch a big fish there. Speaking of big fish, as Jared always does, he's got me some pictures here of two absolute giants. This young man named Grant came all the way down from, I believe it was Michigan, and caught himself an 1144 and a 10-4. That is a trip that kid will never forget. Congrats, Grant. That's just absolutely amazing. And really, way to go, Hill Country Hammer Crew, for putting him on those. Man, just an awesome job by all right there.
That's amazing.
Now, wrapping out my bass report is Richland Chambers. It's in more of a pre-spawn mode as well. I talked to Mr. Thurman Selman up there with Bass Specialty Guide Service. He says that the water's clean, so that's good, and the lake is holding around pool level, which is also good. But the temperatures have been a little cool yet for the bass to spawn. You know, he's kind of on that northern end of my region. And so the fish are not quite spawning yet, but they are making their way into the areas. So he says to look for the hard bottom areas that have the small rocks where they're going to want to be spawning, and look for them moving into those areas, especially on the warm days, fishing your soft plastic Bass Assassin bait. Now, rounding it out real quick with crappie, the Toledo Bend crappie really have been showing off. Living the Dream crew has been bringing in big numbers this week. And they're staging 15 to 20 foot of water, caught on jigs mostly, and then there's still some up shallow spawning as well in 2 to 10 feet. And I'm going to leave you with a photo. Miss Mono O'Neill again. She's showing off this week. She got herself a big slab crappie there.
Man, that's 2 weeks in a row, Brie. 10-pounder plus from the Middle Fresh region. Thank you so much, Matt. We're going to go and take a look at the Rodan Marine System hotspots. He says that we're going to go ahead and start off with Toledo Bend, and Sam Rayburn and OHIV have fish spawning. Remember to fish deeper water patterns early until the water heats up, and then move shallower to look for bedding fish.
That kid, 2 big bass
Wow.
from Michigan.
You might as well quit fishing.
I was thinking that, but I wasn't going to say it. You keep on fishing, little man. All right, the Fish Bites Upper Coast region has been catching everything from flounder and trout to tuna and kings. So let's get the 411 with Captain Carl Weston. Hey, Carl.
Hey guys, let's jump off and take a look at what's in the water, because it's a lot right now. The weather's been perfect to hit at the points at the end of the channels right now. They're holding fish in the early morning, and the bite has been really good. Fishing that incoming tide can't be beat either. Down along the jetties, we've been using scented soft plastics on a 1/4-ounce jig head. That has been our top artificial choice for flounder this week, and usually that's the top choice no matter what week. Now over at Seawolf Park, there have been some nice-sized flounder along the rocks, and over there on the pylons, try a small finger mullet or live croaker on a Texas rig, and there's still some small flounder being caught in the open bays around the edges of the oyster reefs and the calm backwaters along the grass.
All right, what else you got for us?
Mr. Luke, he was putting in the work. He's got a nice layout of some flounder right there.
Oh, all right. Go to the picture then. We're going to check it out. Thank you. All right, what else you got this week, bub?
Well, the trout bite is on. It's hot right now. This warmer weather has hit it. These days have been beautiful outside. And, we haven't even had the huge mosquitoes that usually come with the spring rain. So it's a win-win fish with no mosquito bites. A lot of bait out there right now. We're seeing a lot of bait in the bays. It's coming in with the tide like we talked about. Over in Sabine Lake, along those jetties and rocks, they're producing really well. The oyster reefs back east here, Galveston Bay, have been on fire lately, catching a lot of numbers, a lot of nice fish. Floating live shrimp or a croaker on a popping cork just can't be beat, guys. The grassy channel edges, where the water's a little cleaner, pushed in from the Gulf, also right on that edge, there's lots of bait. The fish are schooling to watch those birds. They'll be running that same little edge. That's exactly what you need to do. I mean, let your Rodan trolling motor get you there slow and easy. Use some stealth, nice and quiet. You'll get in them fish and you'll catch plenty. Topwater's been a lot of fun in these areas. And that Chapo 90 and bone still can't be beat. 2 years in a row, it's my favorite trout lure. Today, speaking of trout, we have a young Mr. Dillon with another nice fish.
All right, man, that's good looking trout.
Let's head offshore, Rick. Out in the real deep, this time of year, we have had some really nice sized yellowfin this year. Blackfin mixed in. The two spars that have been fished a lot, Boom, Bang, and Nansen, are not going to be disappointing this year. If you're going to take that run, it's worth it. Now, there's many methods of targeting tuna. Chunking, like we talked about in Texas, is a favorite. Take a few passes around the rig. I watch my depth finder for a bait ball if I can find it. Get on top of it and start chunking. It'll bring them in. Yeah, I start with a bait rig with a 5/0 trocar tied to about 20 foot of 50-pound diamond fluorocarbon. Simply freeline that chunk out with the bait. Things can get pretty intense when you hit a school. And just keep slinging them in the boat. Don't stop because they'll be there 1 second and gone. And I have a picture here today of my buddy Leon with a beautiful yellowfin. Check out those sickles on that fish.
Nice fish. Nice picture. Good job, Carl. What else you got for us offshore? One to go.
The kingfish already. Last year they were very hard to catch in the deeper water. Guys catching wahoo, fishing for wahoo, catching some really big kingfish right now. Some big girls. Trolling a little slower with the deep divers than you would for the for the wahoo. Excuse me. But there's large schools of bait fish this year spotted over the rock piles, and that is a really good sign for this year. Temps are coming up a little bit. Wind is still a factor offshore. It's been beating us up a little bit. But when you have a beautiful day, don't miss it. Get out there. The fish are there. Keep your eyes peeled for those kings near the beach as well. They love to sneak inshore on you when you're not looking, and sometimes they're big fish. A picture of one caught near the beach right here with a customer.
Nice job. Thank you for all the pictures. Good report. Thanks for batting second for us in our lineup this week. Carl, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the R&R tackle hotspots. He says inshore, targeting flounder at the open bays and around the edges of the oyster reefs and the calm backwaters along the grassy shorelines. And then if you want to go offshore, out in the deep blue water around Boom, Bang, and Nansen is where it's at for the tuna action, Brie.
I love me some tuna action.
I know,
it's
you
the best
good at it
kind
too.
Of action. All right, coming up next, the Lower Fresh region is eager to showcase their impressive big bass catches. But before we get to that, Dave Farrell is at the workbench to share his expertise on reeling in those big ones yourself.
Yeah, we're going to talk
Big drum.
about what the black drum likes to eat. And, it's unfortunately one of the things that I like to eat too. It really is a good bait. And
That would be
a blue crab.
Nice.
Blue crab.
There we go.
We'll be back.
Getting
hate
ready
to
to get
waste these
crabby
for
with
bait.
it, Brie.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Ameritrail. Load, launch, relax. Fenwick. Feel everything. Bahio Sunglasses. Blue light blocking. Radically clear lenses. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. Fishing for adventure. Berkeley. Your fish, our science. And Skeeter Performance Fishing Boats. Eat, sleep, fish.
Well, it's time for the rigs and techniques here at the workbench. And Dave, I want you to know it's crabby over here, bub.
I'm trying to figure out a way to make gumbo in a coffee pot right now at the hotel. I don't want to waste these crabs. But anyway, we're talking about black drum. I don't think we've ever talked about black drum on here.
No.
We might have. I don't remember it. But a black drum. He's a cousin of the red drum, the redfish. And he's got a big, broader body. And when he's little, like 14 or 16 inches. He's got nice big black vertical stripes on him. Looks kind of like a sheep head. But when he gets bigger, those stripes start to fade away.
Yeah.
And man, they pull real hard. If you could say a redfish was like a blue marlin, then a black drum would be like a black marlin. He just pulls, doesn't quit pulling.
Right.
And the really good thing about them is that they're really good to eat. You can keep 5 of them from 14 up to 30 inches, and you really don't want to keep them if they're much bigger than that anyway. They can get a little wormy once they get really big. More importantly, though, because those worms can't hurt you, they're the same worms that you find in trout and everything else. They can't really hurt you, cooked or not. But the flesh gets a little coarse when they get great big. So if they're over 30 inches, you wouldn't want to keep them anyway. You'll see some, that big this time of year from, let's say, January, late January, all the way up through April is when the big black drum will start coming off they get into the deeper water when it gets a little chilly, and they get into that deeper water and they congregate up and they start to spawn. And that's when you can hear them, if you're at night on a full moon near an inlet, most likely, with a flat nearby, you can hear those drumming to each other. They have a big swim bladder that they drum against and make that noise. You can actually feel it in the boat a lot of times. But, a black drum, he's a bottom feeder. He's got barbels underneath. His mouth is oriented downward.
Right.
So he's feeds mainly by smell and by feel with those barbels in the bottom. So whatever you're wanting to do to catch them, you want to keep pretty close to the bottom.
Got it. So we're going to create.
Yeah, a good, a live bait is probably the best way to catch them. Mm-hmm. Or a dead bait, let's say, a dead crab. A cut bait, like a piece of cut mullet, will work. Any dead thing, but the blue crab is the best. We'll go into that in a second. You're going to want to, I like something that can move along the bottom in a current.
Right.
Because if there's more current, there's going to be that scent's going to be moving. The fish are going to be moving more, and when they're moving around, they're going to find your stuff. If they're sitting in one spot and you drop it, and when they're not sitting, you're not going to get a bite. So you want to be in a place where there's a nice little current working, especially on the highest tides and the lowest tides around the full moons of those months, January through April. Near an inlet, near a flat where the fish can come up in the warm to eat. And they will come back and they will eat those, all the crustaceans. And if you can't find any crabs, you can use some fish bites. We push the fish bites pretty hard, but this is one of the things that's perfect for them because it's like you're fishing for a big catfish, and
right.
Because that's pretty much what he is. He's a saltwater catfish. He's not a catfish, thank goodness.
Right.
But he is, that's how he feeds, and that's how he mimics, goes about his day. You're going to find him, usually, you can find them all during the year up and down the coast. But, they're going to be in the same kind of places redfish are. Near a flat, near a depth change from a flat to a channel, let's say, around docks and jetties. The first ones I caught as a kid were around docks and jetties. And they will, even though we want to use a blue crab or a live bait, they will eat an artificial as well. They will even eat flies. But they like little, small, tailed baits, fished right on the bottom, right in front of them. Very slow.
Slow rolling.
Drag it right along in front of them. And if there's especially more than one of them, they get very competitive and will try to run up there and eat it.
So I do have a question for you, Dave. So this crab, what did you do? You pulled the top off?
Yeah, you clean them off, take the top off, go down and trim all the legs off, cut them in half. I usually use a half a crab, and I break this back leg off right in the front of the joint so that I can actually put the hook through that joint that I've left on there and into the bait.
Nice.
Just like that one right there.
Which is that's what this is.
Right.
This is
that ain't coming off. It's
ready to go.
Yeah.
So you use inside the crab bone.
Right.
And came out the meat.
Correct.
And what are they, carapace, right?
Yeah, I would say that, yeah. It's an exoskeleton, yeah.
Okay. I'm glad you know, because you're way past.
Oh, you two over there.
All right, Brie.
All right, hold on to your rods, folks, and get ready for some white bass and hybrid action on Somerville and jaw-dropping bass catches on Lake Falcon, Choke Canyon, Decker, Travis, and Fayette County. The lower fresh region is on fire, Matt, so let's hear it.
All right, Brie, let's get this thing rolling. We're going to start off with the largemouth bass. In Falcon Lake, the bass are biting really well right now. They have been for a while, but the shad spawn is still rocking. These fish are on the shallow gravel bars and shallow rock. Jackhammer, square bills, and square bills are your best option to catch those fish. There are also some beginning to show up out on the deeper rock structure in 10 to 15 foot. Shaky heads and crankbaits are the ticket there. The water's extremely low, but don't let that stop you because the bite just keeps on rocking. Mike Bates sent me a report from Choke Canyon. The bass are still in all three phases of the spawn, but the shad spawn is also just beginning to kick in there. You can catch them anywhere from 15 foot to the bank. Moving baits are best in the mornings with, lipless crankbaits, square bills, and chatterbaits. Texas rig, Carolina rig, and deep crankbaits are working out on that deeper water. His numbers have been really good with an occasional big one mixed in. Fishing has been extremely fun there at Choke Canyon. Fayette County has been good the past week. The big fish are shallow, and a lot of them are beginning to move offshore. You know, it's a hot water lake, so they move out quicker there. Green pumpkin candy flukes and stick baits for the soft plastics up shallow, lipless cranks and chatterbaits around the grass or other things for the moving bite up there shallow. Carolina rigs and shaky heads are beginning to work out in that 10 to 20 foot water on the points and road beds. Somerville, the bass are spawning. A largemouth is shallow around rock and sand banks with spinner baits and shallow cranks. Brian Cotter talks about Lake Decker. The bass are still shallow around the grass. They're definitely still in the spawn mode. Soft plastic stick baits, like the general, fish extremely slowly will generate your best bite. Also, Lake Travis is giving up good numbers of bass. Shallow cover is a ticket. Soft plastic, spinner baits, and chatterbaits are your best approaches. Cover water and keep your eye open for a big fish on a bed. There's still a lot of them visible in that clear water. Got 3 bass pictures this week. One of them is a big old fish that Mike Bates caught at Choke Canyon on one of his guide trips recently. Next 2 are a couple of my clients with big old Falcon specials.
Bub, you know what? It's wrong what you guys do to bass in Texas this time of year. I guess I don't know what I got to do. Just tell me about the white bass and the hybrids before.
The white bass and hybrids on Lake Somerville, they're biting very well right now. Down toward the dam in 6 to 12 foot of water on slabs and sassy sheds off the points. Lower end is definitely the key right now.
All right,
what
man.
I got?
All right, well, it's a good report, and I got bass envy right now. I'm just telling you. I appreciate all your hard work each week, Matt. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the lower fresh hotspots. Choke Canyon is on fire. The shallow numbers have been really good on rattle traps and chatterbaits and square bills. There's also some fish on structures out about 15 feet. Texas rig and crankbaits are triggering those bites, and the numbers and the sizes are coming in all the time.
Emphasize the size.
Yes.
Insane. All right, we're about to check in with our lower and middle coast regions for some irresistible offshore and inshore fishing reports that'll have you itching to hit the water. Plus, we'll be joined by a special guest from Premier Remotes who will share insights on enhancing your boating experience, so stay tuned. Also, to stay in the loop with all things fishing in Texas, visit our website, give us a like on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And for more fishing adventures and reports, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Captain Rick Murphy. We'll see you soon. Tight lines.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Berkeley, your fish, our science. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. Tin Cup, Mountain Whiskey. Shallow Sport, the Texas legend. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. And Penn, let the battle begin.
Dan Benson from POWERPOLE Shallow Water Anchors. Today I want to go over our entire anchor lineup. Let's start with our simple POWERPOLE HD or UL manual spike. You can stick it in the ground, tether it to the boat, kayak, paddleboard, whatever you have. When you want to run that spike with a wireless remote, you can put it in our POWERPOLE Micro, which is great for any boat under 1,500 pounds. From there, we step up to our first hydro offering, which is our Sportsman. The Sportsman's available in a matte black finish, 8-foot depth, our best-selling size, and our best-selling color. When we get into the Pro Series, that's our ultralight anchor, really built for the technical poling skiffs. It's available in a 4-foot, 6-foot, and 8-foot depth. Our top-of-the-line anchor is our POWERPOLE Blade, available in 8-foot and 10-foot models. This is what you see on the fastest bass boats on the market, the most high-end bay boats. For more information, go to powerpole.com, and that's your POWERPOLE tip.
Well, the POWERPOLE certainly was a game changer many years ago in the fishing industry, and I think this is going to be a game changer. You know, Bobby's here from Premier Remotes. Bobby, why don't you tell everybody in Texas about your new product, how cool it is?
Yes, sir, Mr. Rick. Thanks for having us. So basically, Premier Remotes is the world's first smart box boat lift controller. And what I mean by that is Once this is hooked up to Wi-Fi on your dock, you'll be able to control your entire boat lift, dock lights, and you'll have extra security features in addition to that.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about those security features. How does it work?
Yeah, so basically, once this is connected to the internet, you'll be able to use your cell phone from an unlimited amount of distance, pretty much anywhere in the world. You would enter a short pin so you don't butt dial the lift,
right,
and be able to control the lift. You'd be able to lock out the front panel.
Love it.
And if it wasn't locked out and you did go up or down, it'll actually send you a notification to your cell phone to say, hey, Skeeter moving down.
So we can turn the lights on?
Yeah, another thing is,
Show me how to do that. Is that
yeah, of course. You basically would just sign in and you'd be able to control your underwater lights, your dock lights, your spreader. The whole idea behind this concept was to bring the technology from inside their house out onto the dock. People have cameras and security notifications. They got control of their pool lights and all sorts of stuff. Why wouldn't you be able to get your lift started and turn your lights on from afar?
So when I think about how this works, guys, certainly in the morning time, we're always have to run out there and start lowering the lift manually. Sometimes you got to even stay with it. We don't have to do any of that anymore. I can turn the lights on the dock and start lowering my boat from my house as I'm walking down to it.
You sure can. And yeah, so our idea was to, stop keeping track of all these little yellow remotes and being able to control every single boat lift, multiple boat lifts on your dock, and control lights and get notifications and just be a little bit more in tune with what's going on your dock.
So what about if we're sitting up on the back porch and we're having our coffee in the morning, we notice a boat's a little bit crooked, which often see on boat lifts. How can you adjust that?
Yeah, a lot of boat lift motors, they don't go at the same time. So being able to level your lift by sitting on your back porch from our level page, you can, let the boat drain faster and get a better sight picture for sunsets and just have full leveling control from actually standing in front of the boat lift.
Guys, in my opinion, this is a game changer. Where do we go to find out more information about it?
Sure, to learn more about the types of systems we have and the systems they work with, you can visit our website at premierremotes.com, and on Instagram, we're the Boat Lift Guys.
All right.
So check us out.
All right, the Boat Lift Guys are waiting to answer any questions you might have. Brie, where do we go next?
All right, the Lower Coast region is gearing up to dazzle us with both inshore and offshore fishing action that's sure to impress. So let's dive right in and welcome Captain Chad Kinney, who's here to give us the inside scoop on what's biting and where. Go for it, Chad.
I tell you what, inshore is really good, offshore is really good. Kind of work around the weather and the higher winds this time of year we got, but it's on. And of course, Easter weekend's coming up, so a lot of people have some extra time. So take the family fishing if you got it. And then not too far off, Shell Sport Fishing Tournament, the annual tournament's coming up here Mother's Day weekend, May 11th through 13th. So we'll be down there fishing that thing. If you guys haven't seen that, it's a one great event. And there's like 300 boats entered, and we'll be down there working that. But talking the inshore there, the trout fishing's been really good in the lower Laguna Madre. I've been talking to guys all up and down and everywhere else, and it's been really good. I think it's been a great season. The redfish are showing up in the flats, kind of in good area too, but Arroyo City, South Padre Island, has been some good reports down there. So we'll talk about the trout fishing first. It's really good along that King Ranch shoreline. If you get some top waters and you get some, trout green water in the morning, it's not too blown out. Top Dog Junior by Mirrolure is working really good. Best thing to do is, don't be scared to throw those things up along the bank, 1-2 foot up the bank and work it off really slow. Walk a dog, work it slower this time of year. Wait for the blow up, keep on going after that. Do repeatedly. If you're doing soft plastics, throw a saltwater assassin sea shad, works really good. That favorite color, pretty much all year round, I always like that magic grass color, works really good. When you get off that shoreline, there's going to be some grass beds, sand pockets, some washouts and stuff like that. So when weather conditions let you get to there with some lower winds and green waters, which I think this weekend will get there, we're going to have a little bit of a north wind coming. There's going to be lots of good fish. They're solid fish, heavy, healthy fish in that 15 to 23 inch range. And there's some really big fish. A lot of guys are reporting, 4, 5, 6 pound fish, and there's some that are pushing the 8 pound plus. Just remember to work those areas slow once you get into them. Look for some bait flipping around or two, some mullet. Got a picture here of it's a really solid trout, 29 3/4 inch, 8 pound trout release from Captain Ruben Garza on Slick Deep Charters.
Oh, Ruben makes an appearance on the show. That's good. I like it. Now he owes me. All right, let's talk a little bit about some redfish, dog.
All right, so redfish, they've been solid around Cullen House down out of South Padre Island, guys. Cullen House, you can hit from Arroyo City too, Gaswell Flats, Gold Spoons, or if you're up in that skinny water, really you go to. And soft plastics with a paddle tail and a quicker retrieve work good for these guys to get them after the action. Look for wakes pushing early in the morning. Get some of those back bays in Cullen House. In that area, you can see those wakes pushing. And if not, look for mud bulls in the flats. Make sure when you do see some, if you're sight casting, make sure you cast, 4, 5, 6 feet behind them and in front of the fish to present that bait right in front of them. They're going to be moving left or right. So present it right there and you'll get a lot more action blowing up there. If you're getting some high winds or if you guys just like fishing some bait, then cut mullet on the bottom definitely works really good. If you're doing that, put it on an eagle claw kill hook and like 5 to 6 aught. Cut that mullet maybe like 1 inch wide or a little bit better. And just let it sit on the bottom, kind of like Carolina rig or just free line. Just wait for the bite and you'll have some good action like that, especially except the water's a little bit more muddy. So offshore, the state water snapper fishing still going on, going strong. And out deeper, we talked last week too, some wahoo. Still in that 250 foot and out deeper. They're kind of scattered, but there is some fish out there. And so state water snapper fishing, it's open. The bite's really good with some good weather conditions. At this time of year, if you can, take some extra bait for just using it itself, but actually to chum them out, get them there, get the bite going. Chumming can actually help you, especially if the water's kind of off color with your, like a bluish green or green water. If you don't have big, high visibility, you sometimes get those fish if they're suspended or down the bottom, you'll get them up towards the top of the water. If you get them start coming up like that, then you can actually just go to a free line. A lot of fun doing that. Get like a eagle claw 7 to 8 aught circle hook and just pin a piece of fish bite on it and throw it off the back end. The key thing on there is when you do that, you got to keep that bait just flowing nonstop smoothly. So just keep it in the free spool, kind of feed it manually with the line and keep it flowing off the back end. These fish will pick it up and run with it. Once they do, just kind of set the drag up and just start reeling. You don't have to set the hook or anything else. That circle hook is going to do the job. It's going to be right in the corner of the mouth. And it'd be a great fight. When you catch them up shallow like that, they're going to be really lit up and aggressive. So be careful when you get them in the boat. They're going to be a lot of fun doing that. And so moving into the wahoo, like I said, wahoo might kind of be a hit and miss. We haven't had any grass or seaweed out there, but I've seen some blooms that are starting to come. I was just out there, but they produce a great fight and they're really good to eat. The best thing to do is you can find some bottom structure, some rocks, floating debris, buoys out there. Trolling Mirrolure diver, about 7.5 to 8 knots. These fish do like them, when that diver's down there deeper. We've been using a 30 to 50 wide pin, 2-speed, filled up with 40, 50 pound Mamoy mono. Works really good. These fish are really extremely fast, so get ready to, drop the bait back once you hit it. They like the short strike stuff, so if you got a guy that's really good with you, or if you're on a charter or anything else, they should, as soon as that bite hits, just drop it in the free spool almost, let them run for a bit, lock it back up, and you'll get a lot better hook set that way. Islander is rigged with ballyhoo is also a really good money way to go with that. Black and purple works good, or even the pinks, but works really good in the spread. And we're just out there 3-4 days ago, and we got a picture here of a solid 45-pound wahoo we caught off the Bam Bam there.
That's a solid fish. Good job there, Bam Bam. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the shallow sport boats, hot spots from the lower coast region. Chad says that the trout bite is good along the King Ranch shoreline out of Port Mansfield, with redfish showing up out of the South Padre Island around Cullen House and the Gaswell Flats. And then offshore, state water snapper fishing is good, and the wahoo are still out deep in 250 feet of water and deeper.
All right, mark your calendars for May 11th as the 23rd annual Shallow Sport Owners Tournament takes place on South Padre Island, featuring over $250,000 in prizes, exciting scavenger hunts, and a boat raffle. For more information, be sure to visit shallowsporttournament.com and join in on the fun we did last year, and that it was fun.
It was a blast.
All right, join us in welcoming Captain Bink Grimes, who reports excellent trout action in Rockport and steady redfish catches in Porto. You don't want to miss his insights on the Garmin Middle Coast region's thriving fishing scene, so listen up. Go for it, Bink.
All right, it feels a lot like May right now. It's warm around here. We like a plan before we hit the dock, but right now you better have a few plans in your back pocket to deal with the wind. It's been a grind at times, but any day when we get a break in the wind, we're catching some really healthy speckled trout in East Matagorda Bay. It's been mostly on the east end since most of the winds have been from the easterly flow. It allows that water on that end to clear up a lot quicker. Live shrimp under a mid-coast popping cork has been, okay, but we've been making long drifts with bass assassins and mirror lures and really catching fish to 5 to 7 pounds. We released multiple fish in that 5 to 7 pound range over the weekend. Some of those our tides have been lower, so there's been a lot of redfish out there with them as well. We're suspending baits off the bottom underneath those mid-coast popping corks as well. And for those who like to see that cork go under, it's been pretty good. Trout are beginning to slick on the shorelines in the morning in West Matagorda Bay. That slicking is the term we use when those fish are they're feeding on the bait fish, and that oil they're consuming. When they eat too much, they're kind of coughing it up, and it puts a sheen on the water. It's a kind of a sign that tells you, man, there's a lot of fish here, and fish are feeding. Port O'Connor anglers have hid from the wind in the mazes of marsh on those south shoreline of Espiritu Santo Bay and San Antonio Bay. Some of those are wading the back lakes with small topwaters and those soft plastic swim baits like the Bass Assassin Sea Shad. We're throwing a lot of Sea Shad right now, trying to match the hats, because those little 3.5, 4-inch baits, there's a lot of little bitty shad in the water right now, and that's what those fish are eating, so we're trying to match it. In Rockport, the incoming tide's been good for waders around Mud Island, Allen's Bight, and Super Flats. They're throwing small topwaters. They're also tossing Corkies and soft dines and the Bass Assassins. That photo there, we love kids on our boat. This guy used one of those small Bass Assassin Sea Shad to catch and then release that healthy trout. Chicken on a chain, plum, chartreuse, and fried chicken has worked really good in those Bass Assassin colors. We'll go redfish. In Matagorda, most of the boaters are hitting the points and structures along the south shoreline with live shrimp. They stop for 5 minutes, and if they don't get a bite, they move on. It's one here, one there, just keep moving. Others are camping on flats and waiting for those reds to come to them. Some of them are tossing chunks of fresh mullet. They're setting the rods in a rat and waiting for the thump. It takes a lot of patience, but at the end of the day, you have a really nice catch of reds. Those bull reds are still all over the beaches and jetties, guys on foot. They toss big chunks of crab and mullet in the first gut on the beach at high tide. And some of them are working the ocean side on the incoming tide and the channel side on the outgoing tide along the jetties from Freeport to Port O'Connor. There's also a lot of redfish on the edge of the ICW from Sargent to Matagorda. Along with those redfish are huge black drum, and remember, you can't keep the black drum if they're over 30 inches. There's a lot of spawners heading to the Gulf right now. Live shrimp's been the ticket, and a lot of people work trolling motors along the drop-off. Don't be afraid to work the off-collar water. The redfish are in there. They're sight, and they're scent feeders. Old pros like to, when the bite's kind of stale, they like to peel off some of the shell of the shrimp, get more of that scent in the water when the water clarity is dirty as it is right now. We'll go offshore. Triple tail. Guy Michael Quebeca said there should be more triple tail along with cobia beneath large rafts of seaweed. We're getting more seaweed in the Gulf right now. Rough conditions on the big pond have kept many of those boats inside the jetties here lately. We've had some stiff 20, 25 knot winds lately, which is the norm during the spring. Both those triple tail and ling are curious fish. They come to the surface to check out the boat and the commotion, and that's when you can really get them. Both of those they're excellent table fare. You can, just pitch a small finger mullet to them or a live shrimp to them and have a rod ready right along when you're working that grass line. So that's been a really good offshore, as well as our state snapper. Man, people are still getting out there and getting them even in these rough conditions. So that's another good week in the Garmin Middle Coast region. Remember, it's cool to catch and release. Happy Easter to everybody. And it's not cool to kill a bunch of fish just for social media picture. Think about that the next time you do that.
All right, Bink, great advice. Proud of what you guys are doing in the Middle Coast region. We're going to go and take a look at the Mirrolure hotspots. Bink says in Rockport, the trout are good along St. Joe Island on small top waters and plastics on the incoming tide. And then in Port O'Connor, the redfish are steady at the jetty on shrimps and crabs. And then if you want to wade, waders have found good schools of reds in the back lakes on Bass Assassins, Brie.
Nothing better than being steady at the jetty.
Yes, steady at the jetty.
All right, up next, we'll be exploring the Upper Fresh region. But first, let's head over to the workbench where Dave Farrell will showcase the latest and the greatest in fishing gear for Taka Marine Newbie.
Yeah,
over there, Dave.
Well, I got some really nice. These pants are nice enough. I'd wear these to a wedding.
You would.
Yeah, I would. With a nice
point.
pair of, Converse, black Converse. Dress it up a little bit.
Yeah, you would.
I would. These are very nice. Very nice.
We'll be back with Dave's fashion tips.
Yes, sir.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Abu Garcia, Fish to Win. Fenwick, feel everything. Diamond Fishing Products, our reputation is on the line. Island Lures, tournament tackle. Turn on the bite anytime. Tie on a Mirrolure. And Startron, start, run, and store with Startron.
Dude, I'm so excited to be here at the workbench, trolling the edge with Taco Marine. And
Yes.
you know, we talk about new products every week. I'm just going to get started. You know, Dave, Yamaha makes a synthetic oil. It's a 530 blend of oil. And what's so good about it, and what you need to understand, guys, if you own any SHO motor, we're recommending that you use the synthetic, whether it's a 115, a 90, a 175, a 150, even a 250 SHO. Put the synthetic in it. It's going to treat you a lot better.
It's Yamaha's very first full synthetic marine oil. So, you know, they've put a lot of time and effort into making it. You know, it's made with technological, highly technical additives that'll keep it from rusting, advanced anti-friction stuff inside there, promotes fuel efficiency, keeps the rust and corrosion away, keeps everything nice and lubricated. You can't put regular automotive oil in a motor. You know, most cars are idling at 2,000, 2,500 RPMs. These things are at 4,400, 6,000 RPMs all day, running hard.
Right.
You know, you can't just use any old oil. So get you some Yamalube, get that marine full synthetic, because it's the best there is. And it's made for, you know, Yamahas, but you can put it in anything.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about this sea sucker, dude.
Yeah, man, that's a really cool, that's a spool mount leader holder. You know, it's made to, you can put that thing anywhere on the boat and it holds your leaders. You know, get you a nice cutter and zip it out and pow, and cut it off. It's got a spring tension inside there, so, you know, you can make it as tight or as loose as you want.
Right.
You know, off that spring down there.
Right.
And, you know, you can put 4 or 5 different levels of leader in there, and you go from your 80 down to your 20. This one's sticking a little bit because I had to pop a hole in this top one here.
Right.
It didn't come with a hole in the middle. But, you know, you can put that on the horizontal, you can put it on the vertical. It's really a cool little tool. Saves a lot of time and keeps everything in one spot, you know, and keeps it all wound up on there and not flying around everywhere.
I love the fact that when you got to re-spool your lines on all your reels,
you don't need another dude.
You can stick it on something sideways, and now you can put your big spool on here, your tension knob there, and reel till your heart desire is
That's
worn
awesome.
out.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Good
That's pretty
job.
cool.
Where do we go to find this, Dave?
Well, you go to seasucker.com.
Seasucker.com.
Yeah.
There we go.
Seasucker.com.
That's
right
it. All right, now what do we got here from
Well,
AFCO?
I got some AFCO Honcho utility pants. These are really nice pants. Like I said, man, if I'm wearing pants, they're usually AFCO pants anymore. I just really like the look and feel of them. But these are made with a stretched nylon. I don't know if you can see it, but when you pull these things, they stretch quite a bit. You know, so that they got this elastistine stuff in there. It's woven nylon and elastine is what it calls. No, they're not. Those are just giant for me. Yeah. So, you know, and they have an invisible pocket here on the side. A lot of other pockets everywhere else. They got a really nice reinforced plier pocket. Where is that?
Right
Joker?
there.
Yeah. And if you turn this thing inside out here, Rick, you can show them what that pocket. You know, usually these things will be one of the first things that goes, because you got your metal pliers in your pocket all the time, poking holes in it.
Correct.
Not this stuff. I don't know what it's called, but it ain't going anywhere. It's called, it's block tapey. That's what it is. But they also have nice little fitters, you know, little cinch on the hem down here.
Yeah, so you can pull it tight.
Right, and a nice any-outy drawstring.
These are for the Texans with big wallets. They want to be pulling the pants down all the time.
Well, I tell you what, these are good for me because I keep my pants up all the time if I have a drawstring. So you know these are great, you know, because they're not so light that they feel cheap, and they're heavy enough that they'll keep you warm on a cooler day. You know, I think they'll keep you cool and warm. So
Where do we go to find those?
AFCO.com.
All right, man.
I love hearing Dave talk about fashion. It is my favorite thing in the whole world. All right, well, we all know power poles are a must. So all you got to do to bring them all the way up is double tap up. And then when you want to deploy them, you double tap down. It's as simple as that. Quick power pole tip. All right, let's say hi to Mike McFarland as he explores the Upper Fresh region where the recent full moon has triggered bass spawning throughout the lakes of Northeast Texas. Tell us where the big ones are, Mike.
Hi, Brie. Hey, Capt Murph. Well, let's start with Lake Athens. My good friend and guide Jay Bonner says the bass are on spawning beds, and Texas Rig Berkeley Creature Baits and the Berkeley General and shad-colored bass assassins are all working well. Look in the backs of the coves and pockets in 1 to 4 feet to find these spawning fish. Kerry Thorne on Lake Levon. He also says many bass are bedded up for the spawn, but a lot of fish are still roaming and cruising. Use chatterbaits and spinnerbaits in the morning time, white chartreuse colors, 1 to 7 feet around spawning areas, and flats. Top waters like the Berkeley Bullet Pop are also catching some quality fish, and shad-colored square bills used in 1 to 6 feet of water around riprap, submerged bushes, grass, and or gravel bottoms are also working well, pretty much all day long. As the sun comes up, switch your presentations to Texas Rig Berkeley Creature Baits and jigs and work them very, very slow. My favorite lake, my home lake where I guide, Lake Fork, water temperatures are 60 to 68. And yes, the bass here are also on beds and spawning. They're scattered throughout the backwater creeks, pockets, and coves. The Berkeley Creature Baits of all types are working really well, but I'm going to tell you, my favorite here is a Texas Rig Chigger Craw in green pumpkin with the tails dipped chartreuse, a white and or Alabama Craw color. Any one of those three is going to catch those bedded fish really well. 6-inch swim baits and glide baits continue to catch the big pre-spawn females off main lake points, reefs, flats, and shell beds. And here's proof by one of my clients just last week with a pre-spawn giant.
Nice. That's a big fish, dude.
Woo.
All right.
Big fish. So a lot of fun here on Fork, and the whole Northeast is on spawn. Let's go to crappie. Crappie on Lake Levon with Kerry Thorne again. They're starting to move in the spawning grounds as well. The depths are 2.5 to 4 feet, flooded grass, submerged button willows. Use 1/16 and 1 ounce jigs vertically fished around the structure in 1 to 5 feet. Some of the fish are also cruising in 5 to 12 feet of water. They're roaming by themselves or in small groups of 3 or 4 in a pack. This really requires the forward imaging to catch them. And I promise you there's no better unit than the Garmin Live Scope for this technique. Use a 1/16 ounce jig under a slip bobber and set that at whatever depth you see those fish hanging at. The colors don't seem to matter, but black, chartreuse, and white chartreuse are always your best bet. Back to my favorite lake, Lake Fork with Jackie Wiggins, one of my favorite crappie guides. He says the crappie are making a big move to shallow water. They're coming in less than 10 feet, but still seeing the biggest of the numbers in 14 to 24 feet, staging around the mouths of the coves, creeks, and spawning flats. The bigger fish are a little spooky since we've had 4 major tournaments in the last 4 weekends, but small hand-tied jigs and chartreuse, bright greens, orange, and purple colors always work well. And of course, if you need to, put on a minnow, and you're going to catch those fish right here on Fork. The good crappie fishery. Here's a great day with Jackie Wiggins.
All right, what else you got for us, bub?
Lake Levon, bass, white bass, and stripers. They're showing up still in the creeks on Levon. You want to look up in the creek near the eddies and the rapids. Find the areas where some kind of structure deflects and makes like an eddy behind or downstream of it. Use 4-pound monofilament line and a crappie-style jig or minnows, or inline spinners like rooster tails. The colors white, chartreuse, silver, or black. Those all work well. Also, the tiny flukes or bass assassins on a 1/16 ounce jig head under a small bobber, or you can just cast and retrieve, can catch those fish. How about Tawakoni? Big stripers, big hybrids, white bass on the spawn. Everything is in full spawn. Matt says this is the best as he's ever seen it. Matt Cartwright's one of my favorite guys on Tawakoni, and he shared with me and said, just go out there, pick a long sandbar at any depth, find the one that has birds working, and fish swim bait and slab spoons, and it's easy limits. Here's another giant striper, Mr. Matt Cartwright.
Nice. Nice. You got 30 seconds
look at 'em all.
left, bud. Oh, look at the size
Catfish
of
on
those.
Tawakoni, 1 to 3 feet around shallow points with cut bait. Lake Levon, same thing. Channel catfish is a little deeper, 10 to 15 feet. Here's a tip on Levon. If you'll chum a rocky area, that chum goes down in the rocks, so the fish have to work a little bit harder. Keep those fish there longer, makes it easier limits. And as always, great channel catfishing on fork. Timber, 20, 25 feet, punch bait, dough bait. Again, chum those holes the day before, and you will fill your limits. Great fishing in the Northeast Texas. Thanks for having me.
All right, dude. Thank you. Good report. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the upper fresh region. Mike says, with the recent full moon passing, many bass are on the beds and spawning is about all in the Northeast Texas lakes. Lake Fork reigns supreme with his vast numbers of giant largemouth bass ranging from 6 to 10 pounds or greater. And then Forest Berkeley chigger crawls and green pumpkin with the tails dipped in chartreuse and pearl, and are two great choices that can catch these spawning fish, Dave.
Chigger crawls, my new favorite.
There was a lot of words in there, and you even added a few.
You got it.
Yeah, you know, I got to add something.
So, Rick, are we having an Easter cheers or what's going on here?
Man.
Yeah? I don't think I'll be able to get this thing open.
There you go.
Well, guys, thank you for joining
there
us.
you
We
go,
hope you
look
have
at
a
that.
fantastic holiday weekend. Tight lines, happy fishing, and happy Easter. Let's get
That
this
smells
tin
good. You can't have any.